All right, and welcome back to another episode of the 316 Investor. Today we have Ryan Gavin, who is a loan officer with Kind Lending, and we have Brandon. Brandon is a seasoned investor, as well as producing and getting started with Airbnbs as well too, and very well acquainted in the investment industry. So today we've definitely got a pretty good panel of experienced real estate professionals, and we can't wait to get into this and get started. So the topic basically of today's podcast is going to be kind of centralized around getting your first home, getting into investments, what it's going to look like to get those loans on those particular types of projects, fix and flip options as well too, and kind of what to look for. Now, if you are looking into buying your first property today, the first thing I always try to tell my clients is always that the house that you're into today doesn't have to be the house that you stay with, right, guys?
Yep.
You can always have the option to refi till you die type option, right? And sometimes that is the case. That is really a good option, but it doesn't always have to be your option. You do definitely have your options to getting into your first home, but getting into your first home is obviously the hardest part. Getting that approval, that pre-qualification letter, right, Ryan? And making sure that you have the funds available to purchase the property that you want. Because again, that property that you have your eyes set on may not be there in the future. The funding may always be there. It might look better than it does right now, but that property may not be there, and you always have that option to make that funding more likable down the road. So let's get started. We'll go ahead with Brandon. Brandon, so you're kind of new to the podcast. You want to kind of tell the group about what you do and your background a little bit.
Sure. So my name is Brandon Hendrick. You can also find me on YouTube, the Financial Freedom Edge, where I talk a lot about different things that I've been doing. And you can, of course, find me on Facebook. My background started when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When I was like 23, 24, I think a lot of like people who are watching this type of content can like relate with the mentality shift from consumer to producer, right? To investor. So that's kind of where I got my start. After reading that book, I got really serious about improving my credit, about saving for a down payment, and for getting that pre-approval letter, which I won't steal all of Ryan's thunder, but it requires good credit, requires consistency at the same job in the same industry, and you need to have a down payment. So I did all those things, and about 13 months later, I bought my first house. I house hacked it like a lot of people who are struggling to get into their first home. Things were very just as unaffordable. Well, let me back up. Not as unaffordable in 2019 as it is now, but to me, back then, when I only had $20,000 to my name because I saved that up through a lot of hard work, it seemed really unaffordable. But what I did was I bought a big house, rented out all the rooms, worst house in the best neighborhood, improved it over time, claimed all of that rent, which I made a lot of mistakes. If you guys want to hear about some of my mistakes being a first-time landlord, living in the house with strangers, I could definitely tell you guys that. But you got to claim that income, and that allowed me to buy my second my second property with an FHA loan that allowed me to buy a 4-unit property. And then that 4-unit property, after fixing it up, improving the values and the rents, I was able to get a home equity line of credit on that property and then go get fourplex number 3. And I'm actively working on improving that property valuations and rents as well. And kind of the things that I do to afford such luxuries, I am a Airbnb co-host recently. One of my previous bosses has a bunch of Airbnbs, and I am helping with the transition from previous management to us. So we're taking it in-house. And so that has been quite the adventure already. So I can talk more about that. I have a really good friend named Shona who does a lot of midterm rentals. I am more of a long-term rental guy. And then obviously helping with short-term rentals, I kind of see the entire gambit. of, different rules, regulations, consistency or non-consistency with rents and tenants and guests. And then I also do a little bit of real estate photography as well. So you got to have multiple streams of income, whether it be rentals, whether it be jobs, whether it be, being a consultant or a real estate photographer. It's always good to have multiple sources of income. And then, of course, make sure to report all of that on your taxes, because if you don't report it, Ryan can't use it, and then you're in trouble.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Now, Ryan, when it comes to getting those fourplex investments or even their first home, what can a first-time home buyer expect on what the process might look like when they're getting into their first home?
So process-wise, I try and keep it as streamlined and as simple as possible, on the client's end. Obviously there is an initial look we'll take based off of the information provided on an application. And that would be what we consider like the pre-qualification stage. The next stage, would be a pre-approval, in which we will gain, some income documentation, verify the assets, submit it through sometimes a manual underwriting or an automated underwriting system. That then allows us to, pre-approve someone. Once, we find a property, we'll order an appraisal, get the rest of the documentation around the property itself, and then submit for the final approval and clear to close. So process-wise, that's the process. Sometimes as you run into, issues with there's issues with the property, if something comes back on an appraisal, that can complicate things, but that's why you have professionals like myself and you guys who can help navigate that for the client. So the client doesn't have to, try and tread those waters on their own.
Nice. Yeah. So when working, I've actually done a couple transactions where I have referred a couple of my clients. And for those that don't know, again, my name is Raymond Coburn. I'm a licensed realtor here in the state of Oregon with eXp Realty. I do residential and I do commercial. And so I have worked with Ryan on a couple of my clients already, and I can attest that the work that he's kind of put forth in working with my clients and making sure that they are taken care of. Once they come to me saying that they want to buy a house, I'll let Ryan take off on them, and I let them know, hey, once Ryan's done with you, we're gonna take off. We're gonna find that house for you, no matter what it takes. We're gonna go. Even if I have to go driving door to door to get people to sell their homes, maybe they weren't thinking about it, but if I say, hey, I have a buyer that's potentially interested in your home, then ultimately I bring those buyers to Ryan and we get them approved. Or if not, then he sets down and lets them know where they have to go and what they have to do to get approved. So that's really one thing that I've actually seen with Ryan and working with Ryan. His dedication to his clients, definitely and very impressive, I've got to say.
Thank you.
And now working with Brandon here, it's taking off. It's going to start taking off. I definitely feel once we start to develop more of our relationship as real estate grows, we'll start to do some more investments going along the lines and picking brains about Airbnbs and how we can maximize investments for not just ourselves, but also for potential clients, right? And so when Brandon, when you got started into investments, what did it look like? I mean, were you working like a 9-to-5 job, or did you just start out? Did somebody give you money to get started, or how did that look like?
Yeah, good question, my friend. So yeah, I figured I don't even remember the loan officer that I used at that point in time. It was so long ago. But I basically just started calling people from Google, and I said, "Hey, I want to buy a house. What do you need from me?" And they said, okay, we need credit, we need a down payment, we need job consistency. So I said, okay, perfect. I have no money and my credit's crappy, but I've been at the same job for a year. And it was a W-2 job. I knew I needed that. I knew I was like, okay, I need consistent income to make payments, right? So I did luckily have that income coming in already. That was, again, probably influence of Robert Kiyosaki. He said, the banks love the W-2. They love the W-2 worker, so that's exactly what I did. I found a sales job that was W-2 oriented, which still gave me some ability to earn extra money instead of just regular wages. So I was at a sales job for 1 year, and you just need to show them where you've been for the last year and where you've been currently. And I was able to then qualify with that W-2 job. And like I said, that whole year I worked really, really hard. When I decided I want to get into investing, I worked really hard on improving my credit. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I reached out to lenders and said, what can I do? What do I need to do? And then of course I saved up every penny I possibly could because nobody gave me any money. I did not have any co-signers. I did not have any partners. All of my properties are 100% under my name. So I've had to come up with all of the down payment. I've had to qualify for each property with conventional financing. It is possible. I'm not going to lie. It is a little daunting. Conventional financing, Ryan is going to put you through the ringer, but all of that, if you do qualify, just signifies that you are ready for that property and that you are a good bet and that you are, you're making the right decision. Like if you can afford it, not putting yourself in a really tough financial situation, which Ryan will make sure of, that you are, this is a good fit for you and what you can afford. And that's what I did, is I made sure that I fit myself right into the criteria, just make it very simple, very streamlined, give them exactly what they want. And I fit into that box. I bought a property and with the intention of renting it out, that it was going to become a rental at some point in the future. So I bought in a neighborhood that I would feel comfortable living in. I bought, at in a cul-de-sac, so there wasn't a lot of traffic. A lot of things that I don't know if you tell your, potential clients, but just be mindful of staying away from railroads, high traffic areas. You don't want to live next to a gas station, right? Like you want to be mindful of where you place your properties. So I did all of that. I bought the worst looking house in the best neighborhood I could afford. And I did a lot of sweat equity. I didn't know a single thing about fixing houses until I needed to fix stuff. So, I got one of my buddies who's a little bit more handy than me. We started putting down flooring. I learned how to paint, all kinds of things that you would want to do to make the place more rentable, increase the value. And I did those things and I waited, right? I waited for the market to do its thing, appreciation over time. You have debt pay down because every month people were paying me rent. I was paying the mortgage. So that's my favorite thing. I don't know if you tell people this, but I tell people all the time, you have cash flow if you buy right, you have debt pay down because you're paying your debt down, you have hopefully appreciation if you bought at a good price in a good area. Historically, homes do go up in value over time. And then of course the IRS loves giving you tax breaks when you do improvements on your property. I would say maybe Ryan would know a little bit more. Maybe we need a CPA on here. Because I know there's some differences between your primary residence and a rental property, but you do get some depreciation and different things when it comes to mortgage interest and things like that. But for anybody who's thinking about it, I can only say, and I don't want to throw out numbers, but between age 25 and now I'm 31, the growth in my so yeah, if I look older than 31, it's all the stress. But between 25, when I think I bought my house when I was 25, now I'm 31. The difference in my net worth when I started was literally when I started down this journey, I had $1,200 in my bank account. I was a consumer. And now I have a little bit more than that, and my net worth is significantly larger than that. And it's all because of real estate. And it's because I followed the advice of great mentors, great realtors, great lenders, and, you know, watched YouTube, listened to Bigger Pockets, read books, read blogs, you know, and listened to podcasts like this to educate myself. And that's kind of how I got started. And then I realized, hey, you know, if one's good, four's better. So then I realized after talking, you know, to amazing other investors, they said, hey, you can go up to 4 units and stay on a 30-year fixed residential loan. And I was like, hey, that's a great idea. More units, more better, right? So I got more familiar with the multifamily space, and now I'm realizing, okay, 4plexes are amazing. I wonder what an 8plex would be like, or a 16 or a 30 unit. So now I'm gonna have to start talking to Ryan about how to get into bigger and bigger multifamily, because I like that everything's under one roof. It's a lot easier to manage, and affordable housing is definitely something that we're gonna need here in the future, because home prices, let's be honest, are pretty high. They're pretty high, right? And let that be a lesson. Let that be a lesson. It's not, in my opinion, and I don't know what you guys think. Like I'll turn it over to you guys. I don't know if home prices are going to get cheaper. I think if you want to buy, see everybody's shaking their head. If you want to buy, if you want to get a home, buy now. Buy the best time was 10 years ago. The next best time is today. So if you can get qualified with Ryan and then get an amazing realtor who understands investing and investments and rental properties and the market and the neighborhood, go to those agents and say, this is what I'm looking for. Please help me. And get in now, because it's not really going to get more affordable. The one thing I tell people, well, I tell people a lot of things because I like the sound of my own voice. But but you know, something I tell people in all seriousness is look, the one thing you cannot change about an investment is the purchase price. Can't change that. And honestly, changing the location is extremely difficult, right? If you want to jack up your house and move it to another state, you can do it, but financially it wouldn't really make sense. So those two things are very, very serious when it comes to making your decision. Be in the right area you want to be in, maybe not forever, but just realize that, you know, you can buy another property, keep that one, put renters in there, and just make sure you feel comfortable, you know, having renters in that neighborhood. Think of the appreciation, think of the value. Is it next to parks or is it next to a train station? And then you can always refinance. You can go back to Ryan again and again and again, refinance, pull out your money. You can do home equity lines of credit. There's a lot of different options, but the first and foremost thing is you have to get the investment. And that's where these two amazing gentlemen come in and help you find that stuff. Unless you're, unless you have all the time in the world to door knock, it's really not, and just ask random strangers, hey, do you want to sell your house? It's really good to have a powerful agent on your side that helps you. My first property I bought on market, full retail price with an agent. I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, it turned out great. I'm very happy with it. But I would recommend asking your agent, hey, do you have investments? Do you, you know, what do you think of rental rates in this area as opposed to this area? What do you think of appreciation in this area and that area, right? So quiz your agent and quiz your lender too. Like, hey, do you have any investments? Like, what is it that, you know, what do you think would make a better investment? And obviously this isn't, you know, it's your investment at the end of the day, but it's always good to have solid professionals that have years of experience that are in the business day in and day out to guide you.
100%.
Nice.
You know, and something I'll just mention on your topic of it being a good time to buy. I mean, right now, and I know we talked a little bit about this, I think, on the last podcast, but we really are in a unique situation where we have a lot of buyers sitting on the sideline. You know, we have a lot of people who bought when rates were at like 2, 3, 4%. And, you know, so many of these homeowners, you know, might want to move up into something else, but don't want to give up their 3, 4% rate for, you know, a 6, 7% rate, you know, and we are seeing, you know, a shift in interest rates over the last, you know, several weeks. Obviously, it's been up and down a little bit before that, but, you know, long story short, whether it is in a few months or in a year, rates are going to come back down. And a lot of these buyers that have been sitting on the sideline are going to enter back into the market, and home values are going to jump. They're kind
and there's
of
going to be a
level.
feeding frenzy. Everybody's going to jump in. Everybody's going to be really busy. I think that's 100% right. And that's why I tell everybody, like, buy now. Buy when there's low competition. Buy when you can refinance later. Now's the time, because as soon as, like to Ryan's point, as soon as those rates come down, I heard a metric somewhere, but like for every point the rates come down, you have 25 million more buyers, nationwide, and I don't know if that statistic's correct. I heard something somewhere, but everybody's thinking the same thing you are. I want to wait for rates to come down. What happened? I want to ask our amazing realtor here, what happened when rates were extremely low? Did you have a bunch of offers or only a few? Did you have a lot of contingencies or no contingencies, right? Like, what were people doing when rates were 3 and 4%?
Yeah, 3 and 4%. There was a lot of bid wars, and there was very low contingencies. They were just wanting to get in. And I remember before I became a realtor, I was doing other things in real estate, and I would actually try to find deals for other investors. And I remember trying to put in offers on some of the properties, and they were always swamped with other buyers. They were like, well, we have this person going $2,000 above you, so now the seller wants to put in their highest and best offer, and you're like, where do I go? Do I go all the way, or do I just kind of go right there? And it's kind of it was a really stressful time for buyers to get into something that they really wanted to get into. So that is definitely, Brandon, why right now is the way to buy is right now, really, because you don't have so much of that going on. You are able to get the home that you want, as opposed to looking at homes right now. Whether the housing, and what you guys were touching on earlier was, is the housing market going to go down, or the prices of the homes going to drop? Not really. I mean, has the biggest question is, since 1920 to 2020, what happened to the market? Did it go down? Did it kind of stay? No, it's continuously gone up. For those that have watched the previous podcast that we did here on the 316 Investor, I did note that I was the first administrator for a cryptocurrency platform called Binance USA. I was the first accepted administrator for Binance USA, and I was in charge of all of their questions and answers and transaction coordinations within Binance US, because Binance had came from Bangkok to their headquarters was previously in Bangkok. Now it transitioned into the US. The US had a director of acquisitions and dispositions for cryptocurrencies in all the markets that were allowing US residents to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. That transition from Bangkok into the US there was a lot of legal hurdles. And this was back when cryptocurrency was becoming legal and not legal. There was some turmoil between the two. There was a lot of people that were facing significant amounts of jail and prison time for that. Within Binance, what I was doing was I was answering everybody's questions is, where's my transaction funds at? When does it clear? What is this particular cryptocurrency doing? Now, at that time, and even right now, it's very not so regulated. There are certain patterns that a lot of angel investors know about. They can actually see where the market's going, and it hasn't never changed from day one when you could use 500 Bitcoin to buy one pizza. Now you'd have 1/500th of a Bitcoin to buy a house. And it's ridiculous how the price has gone up. Of course, I'm exaggerating on that, but nonetheless, within that aspect, prior to doing cryptocurrency, I was into the stock market. My wife and me, we invested into stock markets, and that turned out to be a fail, because the people that were put in position, known as the Security and Exchange Commission, they are there to help protect investors, and we found out that they were not. We lost a lot of money, and so we went into cryptocurrencies. And the thing that I have always recognized within the housing market is the housing market is no different than the stock or the crypto market. There is always a new high and always a new low. And what I mean by that is you always have this same level of ups and downs, whether that means it's going up, the new high and the new low, but it never goes back down to the ultimate lowest of the lows, right? There's never that case scenario. There's always a high, there's always a new low, and then always another high, and it's always going up and down, but always going up. And that's the same thing with the housing market. Is 5 years from now, will those houses look the same prices as they do now? Probably not. No, because the way we look at houses right now is, as realtors, we do something that's called a CMA. And the CMA is a comparative market analysis. And every listing agent, I have currently 17 listings that are combinations of commercial and residentials. Some of them are fixer-uppers, and some are really good potential commercial properties. What I do, and what all listing agents do, they take a certain area of homes or commercial properties that have sold in the last 3, 6, 9, and even sometimes 12 in a tough market like what we're in right now, where a lot more maybe inventory is happening with less buyers. We're looking at those previous sales and saying, okay, based off of this square footage, based off of this bedroom, bath, and lot size square footage, make and model of the house, this is what my client house is worth. Now, if a 5 bedrooms, 3 bath house on 1 acre sells at $550,000, for example, in 2023, the appreciation of the cost of building that house, the development of the community, and what the community has to offer, such as amenities, hospitals, doctors' offices, dentists, stuff like that, shopping centers, making maybe life a little bit more easier for some, that definitely drives up the value in certain communities. Now the question is, with that in mind, do you think that the properties would go down? Probably not. So that's another reason why, perfect example of why right now is a great time to buy and start looking into investments. Now, when me and my wife, we got into our investment, we were renting in California. It was a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 900 square feet. We started out at like $2,700 a month. It was ridiculous. And there was 500 units in this complex. And you had 1 car, and if you parked in somebody else's spot, the next morning your car wouldn't be there. You'd come on out to find that you'd have a $300 to $500 tow truck bill just to be able to get your car back out of impound. And they did this legally. You can kick, scream, holler all you wanted. So now your $2,700 a month bill for your rent just went to $3,000. And fortunate event that I can explain example on is I think it was 2018 on New Year's night, my wife's car got towed. And because they were closed for New Year's and then it landed on a Saturday and Sunday, they charged us for 3 days of impoundship. So we had like an $800 bill on New Year's. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then on top of that, we had to pay for water, electricity, sewer, all those types of things, and then a car payment on top of that. And I said to my wife, I was like, why are we paying for something we will never own? Why? It makes no sense. We are working way too hard for something we will never own. If you calculated, a $2,500 a month mortgage payment or a rent payment, and you times that every month for 12 months, how much are you paying in a year? Now, within my wife and me, we decided to leave that space there in California. I was actually raised in Coos Bay, North Bend as a younger man, but then we moved back down to California. I have family kind of up and down the coast here, so we bought this house right here, and it's on an acre and a half, and we have beautiful fruit trees and stuff like that. So we liked it out here, and we don't have close neighbors. We got our privacy, and I'll tell you what, our mortgage here is about half the amount of average rents right now in the city on our mortgage. Then after we bought this house, got a little bit more educated into real estate. We got into our first fourplex with a fairly large down, and we negotiated the price down a little bit, and we got in on owner carry interest only payments with a balloon due after 7 years. Now, if you're getting into real estate for the first time or investments and you don't know what a balloon is, that means that whatever money you put down goes towards that principal. Let's say if you have 600,000, you put down 50,000. Then how much do you have left? 550,000, right?
Yep.
So, and so after that, you have that $550,000 due after 7 years. You're not having to pay any of that $550,000 until 7 years. During that period of 7 years, you're negotiating a certain set price or a percentage on that price for that 7 years, maybe with an increase over 3 years, 4 years. It starts to go from maybe 4, 5, 6, right? And then after 7 years, you pay it all off. Or you have the option to sell it with no prepayment penalties. That is also another option. Or I know that you can also do the same thing in an FHA loan. So with an FHA loan, you're talking with Ryan here. So Ryan has got great products on those type of investments as well too. So Ryan, if you can kind of touch a little bit on how that might look in the loan sphere for you and see how that might work for first-time investors.
So I think FHA would be a good solution for somebody who doesn't have a lot of money down, might have some challenging credit history, and is looking at maybe using some additional rents on a 3-4 unit property to help them qualify for their mortgage payment, right? As far as when dealing with straight investment properties, though, you would have to find alternative financing, right? FHA is going to be for your owner-occupied kind of house hack situations like you guys have talked about, right? Which is a great solution, especially with minimal down payment. Once you start having some down payment, though, you can secure better products, to probably save you money on interest, allow you to do more, with investment properties, but as far as a first-time home buyer is concerned, a lot of your down payment assistance programs work hand in hand with FHA as well, which is another reason why we tend to see that, more first-time home buyers accessing those programs than your more conforming conventional programs. There are some down payment assistances that do work with conventional financing, and one of the main misconceptions, is needing a lot of down payment to qualify for the mortgage. where the down payment is going to help you with qualifying is is on the payment aspect of it, to help get your DTI maybe in line. But that's also where we look to multifamily to also help with that being a solution. So I don't know, every situation really is different. Everybody's, personal, income, down payment is all unique. And so realistically, there's a wide umbrella of options for most scenarios, and hiring me to navigate that and find the best possible solution is what I'm here for, right? So yes, FHA is a great way for first-time home buyers to get into homes, be able to look at, maybe 3-4 unit properties if they want. If you have the income for it, you could qualify for a single family home and do like Brandon did with border rents, right? As long as you are claiming those on your returns, then you can use that income as opposed to, just having like a lease agreement with a couple roommates and then trying to use that income. So I don't know if I answered your question very well, honestly, but yeah, that's, some insight into that world.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Well, tell me this. So I heard this rule, and Ryan would know better than I. I closed on my second fourplex, maybe 8 or 9 months ago at this point, and I believe it was here recently, like in November of last year or something like that, where they actually changed the rule. Where instead of having to put 20 or 25% down on a multifamily, because if I remember correctly, that's how it goes, right? With the single family, it's it could be 5% down. With the duplex, it's like 15%. Three unit building, 20%. Fourplex, 25%. I don't know if it was Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but one of those people or somebody up there now changed it where it's 5% down on a conventional for up to 4 units.
That's correct.
And yeah, and unfortunately for me, that happened literally months after I closed on my second fourplex. So for all those people watching and listening, it is now easier than ever, in my opinion, to go get a triplex or a fourplex. You only have to put 5% down. And if you do it with an FHA, you're going to have to meet certain sustainability rules when you do 3 units or 4 units. That's why I had to put 10% down on my FHA loan, because I wasn't passing the sustainability rule. So I think, in my opinion, it's almost better to go 5% down, conventional. And to be completely honest, I think buying a duplex, triplex, fourplex, it is easier to qualify for than a house, because you get 75%, and Ryan, you can speak to this if you want, but you get 75% of their rents added to your income. So you have 2, 3, 4 people helping you buy this property, and you're 100% owner. So I think it's easier to qualify. It's less down payment. It's easier. You're buying an asset. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on.
Big syndication, brother.
Yeah, I talk multi-unit constantly, and I think we need more of it. I think we need more accessible financing for multi-unit construction. It solves a lot of our problems that we're currently experiencing. With the barrier into home ownership, right? Like we're just talking about, that can be the solution for someone who can't qualify on their own income for a $500,000 home. Let's be real, even, families with 2 healthy incomes, and a couple cars are going to have a hard time qualifying for a home right now. But the multi-unit most definitely can be the solution. because you can use those additional rents toward your income. It also provides the ability to offer more affordable housing, right? So there's, I don't know, I'm a strong believer of multi-unit. I wish we could, get more builders on board to, be constructing more multi-units. And I think we will see more of it in the future, in the next several years as people start realizing what we've realized, so.
Yeah. I hope we can get more people building duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, right? Because once you go over 5, if you guys aren't aware, once you go over 5 units, then you get into commercial financing, which Ryan can still help you with, but the terms are not as favorable. As I've been doing more research into that, you don't get 30-year fixeds anymore, which is why I've stuck with the fourplexes, because it's just more desirable financing. And that's one thing, as I'm sure you tell all of your new clients who are, maybe renters, and me as a landlord, feel free to boo in the backgrounds. As a landlord, rents do go up over time. They just will. Your food goes up, the gas goes up, the insurance goes up, property taxes go up, and that means your rent will go up. But with a 30-year fixed, it is fixed. The bank will never be able to come back to you and say, hey, we want to make more money, so we're raising your mortgage. That doesn't happen. So if you want to lock in a payment now, that's my recommendation. I tell all my friends, I say, hey, look, if you don't want to be a renter, please just buy something, anything. You can always lower the payment. It will not go up.
Unless you take some cash out, maybe. Or, I mean, there are
if you do a cash
scenarios,
out, but, property taxes, insurance, right. Yes, but I promise it will not go up anywhere near as much or as consistently as your rent will go up.
Right, for sure.
So now let's take it one step higher, if we may, gentlemen. We're going to start talking more about what those investment strategies look like. Why are they priced? Why is a fourplex priced the way it is? Why is a commercial property priced the way it is? We're talking 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 200 plex. What justifies that price? If I may, I'll go off on that one first. All properties that generate income are going to be priced off of, and it never fails. It always goes off of one key aspect, and that is the capitalization approach. And all capitalization approaches are always going to be based off of the same formula. How much does that property generate? And if you add on more units, obviously you might charge less per unit. Overall, how much does that property generate is basically going to justify what the asking price is going to be. Now, for instance, if you have a lot of investors right now are okay with looking at a 5% cap rate or higher. That is typical average that I have seen with investor within their buy boxes. Buy boxes being their criteria, and their criteria can fluctuate anywhere from cities, locations, certain demographics, how many populations are in that area, what's the median income, what's the median crime rate, stuff like that, and what type of schools are in the area. So the reason why you would want to get into an investment property, whether that be your single family residential that you're just renting out the other room, is to obviously supplement your income. Now, once you get into multiplex income, then that becomes residual income, meaning that you don't have to clock in. That money is coming to you constantly without you actually having to do too much. If you hire a property management company, less work, but it does come out of price. If you do it yourself, there is a little bit of work, but hey, it keeps your body moving, right? So within property management on your own property and your own investments, that is your bread and butter. Whether that's a triplex, duplex, fourplex, 10plex, whatever plex. that property that generates that income is spread out over a 12-month period. Let's say if we have, my calculator, um, let's say if we have a property that is, and there is a calculator out there that does cap rates for me, and I can pull up cap rate percentages pretty quick. It's a calculator called, you might want to write this down, it's called Omni, OMNI. And Omni basically says, what is the price that you're wanting? How much does it make? What is the gross and what is the net? What is the expenses of that property? And then at the very bottom, it gives you a percentage. Keep in mind, you want to try to be above 5% or higher. So let's say if we had a $1,500 a month property and we divided that by 12, we are now at $18,000 per year, right? So now, automatically in your mind, you're thinking, if I list my property at 180,000, I'm now at a 10% cap growth, right? So if I say, well, I want to list it at 360,000, I'm now at a 5% gross cap, right? So just that kind of a simple breakdown is how you would get a listing price for a property that is income generating. So obviously, the more that you're able to income generate on your property, hence the reason why a lot of landlords do increase tenants' rents, and that most likely will not be going down and will only be increasing, and why renting is actually more expensive than owning your own home, because the owners of those investment properties, they have got to make money. This is their 9 to 5. Their 9 to 5 is providing housing for renters that are needing a place to live and call home. It's great. It's great community job work to do for a lot of investors. And so I think Ryan fell off there. He'll come right back. But it's a great time for a lot of renters to find and have housing where they're looking for homes. But keep in mind that it's always going to be more affordable to get into a home rather than rent. So Brandon, if you can kind of touch on that a little bit on what you're seeing with your tenants and how increasing rent is significant to your property investment values.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, every time my utilities go up, every time my property taxes go up, every time my insurance goes up, every time I have a huge repair. For example, my single family house that I bought in 2019, I just had to do a $5,000 furnace, and I just had to do a $6,000 shower remodel, all within about 90 days. So it was $11,000 of CapEx expenses that I wasn't really excited to pay. I knew that was going to happen. But that's something none of my renters had to pay for, right? Like they didn't have to scramble to come up with $11,000. I did. They didn't have to coordinate the contractors to make it happen. I did, right? So those were, that's great benefits to being a renter, right? You don't have to deal with that stuff. Once you become an owner, you do have to deal with that stuff. No one to call who's going to fix your stuff. I would say there's pros and cons to both, honestly. I don't know about Raymond and Ryan here, but I was a renter at some point. I rented, right? And then I eventually became a homeowner. So we all start there. It's a great starting point. It gives you flexibility if you're like in college and you're not going to live there forever, right? But at some point, people settle down, they get into a long-term job, they start a family, and then, owning a home is a great idea. But to Raymond's point here, it is an investment. I do expect to make money. And I've battled people on Facebook about this where they say, oh, you should, be more reasonable with your rents. You should not price gouge people. And I try to tell them in a nice way, right? Like, cause I don't want to disrespect anybody. But I say, hey, look, I know you don't like that there's people like me, like Raymond, like BlackRock, like State Street that own properties and rent them out. I get that. I understand you don't like that. But it is a business. It does happen. This is a part of, the economy. And what happens is we expect a return from this investment because, we're providing housing. We're taking on the risk. We're managing it. We have to fix stuff, right? When the roof goes out, I can't call the tenants and say, hey, you guys are responsible for the roof. I need $5,000 from each of you. That's not how it works. I have to, I'm responsible for all that. And in return, my renters get a warm, safe, dry place to live. And they pay me rent for that. So it's a give and take. I would say there's pluses and minuses, but over time, my rents will continue to go up. And that's just the way that the economy works. When my prices go up, you roll it. Just like any business, And I know people like to pick on landlords a lot, but just like when you go to get your Starbucks, they weren't always $7. They were cheaper. Just when you go to McDonald's or go to get a Nike shoe or whatever, right? Those things used to be cheaper. Because inflation, they go up. That's business. And I'm not an economy expert, so people who are yelling, please forgive me. This is just my, interaction with the economy as a landlord. That's how I understand it. I could be woefully wrong. But prices will go up, and the only way to kind of lock that in is being a homeowner. Yes, property taxes will go up, and that's the government's fault. Will insurance go up? Yes. And again, insurance is a business. They want to make money, so of course they're going to raise the prices on you guys. Me too. So it just kind of depends on where you're at in life, right? If you and I hate to say this, Raymond, if you're not going to stay in the same neighborhood for the next year or two, maybe don't buy a house, right? If you're just passing through town, maybe don't buy a house unless you want to be a landlord. Then buy it as an owner occupant, get the best interest rate you possibly can, and set up some type of property management company if you don't want to do it yourself. If you're wanting to do that, then perfect. If you're rolling through town and you don't want to deal with tenants and you're going to Wyoming after this, maybe this isn't the place that you buy a house. But I think a home overall is a great investment. They go up slower than the stock market, but it also goes down slower than the stock market. It's not wild volatility. And one of my favorite things about real estate, among all of the ways to make money from it, is we all need a place to live. So no matter how many shares of Apple you have, you still need a place to live. So whether you rent that from somebody or you own it yourself, we all need a place to live. So that is a conversation you need to have with yourself, with your partner, with a trusted advisor, realtor, lender. Like, hey, is this the best time for me to buy a house? What do I need to do to qualify? Hey, I am ready to settle down. I really like this neighborhood. Like Raymond said, he really likes his acreage. He's got fruit trees and stuff. This is a place where he wanted to be for a while. So great, buy a house. And I bet, Raymond, if you're not there forever, you're either going to sell that property and put the money via a 1031 into a bigger and better property, or you're going to keep it as a rental.
Exactly. And so, looking at being a property owner, I never really thought that I would ever get into real estate. Once I realized that, hey, I'm putting money into something that I'll never own. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my thought process, right? I was like, I keep putting money into an empty piggy bank with that cork at the bottom unplugged, right? The money just keeps falling out. And I keep coming home day after day exhausted. Like, what is the meaning of my life? Why am I even here? If I keep working for somebody else and my rent just keeps going up and up and up, and I don't ever get to own anything, and everybody around me is buying all this stuff that one day they just get to sit back and relax. I want to get to that point. And has it been hard? Yeah, it's been hard. It's been very challenging. It is not easy, but it goes back to one of my sayings that I've kind of lived by for the past, at least I'd say 12 years now, is if you want something that you've never had, you got to do something you've never done.
Yep.
And so getting that first loan qualification, like working with folks like lenders like Ryan, is there's a lot of hurdles to it. There's income verifications, there's down payments, there's programs for down payments that can help you with that as well too. And Ryan can definitely touch with you on that. I think he might have lost his signal or his battery on his phone died out, but his details and Brandon's details, where you can find them at, will be down in the link down below. So don't worry about not being able to get in contact with either of them. They'll be around for quite a while. And if you're looking into getting into like Airbnbs and stuff like that, Brandon is also very knowledgeable in that, and can help facilitate some of those properties as well too, and kind of give you some key points. I know he has a pretty large following as well too. So other than that though, I think, again, going back to residential, once you're into residential investments, you get into the knowledge and the know-how on how to get into residential investments, and you start getting that experience. You eventually want to get into commercial, right, Brandon?
Yeah, that's kind of my long-term goal. Just because I've seen how single-family homes appreciate over time. So if I can get more units and a bigger loan, because think about it this way, you guys, and I don't want to bore you with the math. That's Ryan's job. But basically, here's the deal. If I have a $500,000 loan getting depreciated and paid down over time and appreciation, right? There's this gap right here called equity. Now, if I have a $5 million property being paid down and getting depreciation and appreciation, there's a bigger gap called equity, right? And equity is like my major net worth, right? Most of my, I do have some stocks and crypto as well, right? You wanna have other investments, but most of my net worth comes from equity in my properties. And will it go down over time because there's ups and downs in every market? Absolutely. Will it go up in the long term? Absolutely. That's what I believe. But yeah, getting into commercial property, I think, is just kind of the next step, right? You can do residential properties, you can do midterm rentals, you can do Airbnbs. Those are all great cash flow activities for sure. But just like where you were at, a 500 unit apartment building, I bet that owner or owners or entity probably doesn't have the same problems that we do. I'm sure they're doing just fine when it comes to their net worth, to their cash flow. I think they're doing just fine. And that's kind of where I want to be. Just to touch on the Airbnb really quickly, my advice for people is, one, understand that it's very seasonal, right? People travel at different times, based on your location. And two, I think, and again, I'm not the Airbnb expert here or anything, but from what I've been seeing, from helping people co-host, manage these properties, buy them, and just kind of see the full circle, I think it was a lot. And Ryan could probably attest to this for Airbnb loans that he's done. I don't know if you've done more 2 years ago or did you do more this year, right? I think Airbnb is not necessarily a fad. I think there's still absolutely a following. People love Airbnbs more than hotels, but I also think there's a lot more Airbnbs than there ever have been. So please differentiate yourself and your property and your location. Make it special, make it themed, make it near a body of water or a tourist destination, right? I don't think people, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I don't think people want to stay in your backyard anymore unless you're next to something very, very cool. If you are, if you are 1 minute to the ocean, I think people would prefer that as to be in a backyard in the middle of the city. So just location, location, location. It's true with any real estate, but even more, in my opinion, with Airbnbs. And I think the best way to buy any property, again, in my opinion, and of course, Ryan has loan products for this, is to buy properties that need some work. I I totally disagree with, if you want any type of investment, if you want any type of forced equity, if you want any type of return, you don't buy the turnkey, fully renovated property at the highest price possible. That's not the way you want to go. You want sweat equity, and that's what I've done. I'm sure that's what Ryan has done. I'm sure that's what Raymond has done. When you buy a property, you look for the ugly duckling and you fix it, right? My first property, and you guys aren't going to believe this. My first property, one of the reasons I bought it, it had nasty baby blue carpet. And every time you vacuumed it, it smelled like wet dog. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. When I walked into that house for the first time with my realtor, it smelled like wet dog. And I said, we might have a winner. Then I see the nasty baby blue carpet, and I said, that's good. That's a good thing. Then I walk into the kitchen. I saw purple indoor-outdoor carpet in the kitchen. And I said, now we can negotiate. So you're looking, yeah. Look at Raymond over here. He's trying not to lose his mind over here with the carpet in the kitchen. I couldn't believe it either. But that was an awesome property because I was able to add so much value by making it more modern, making it nicer, paint things, get rid of the golden handles on all the kitchen hardware, right? You can add value in simple ways or really expensive ways. And I would defer, to Raymond, right? Like, he sees all of these properties every day. He knows what things are comping for. Do you put granite countertops or do you not? What type of paints to use or not? Do you bust up your entire driveway and pour a new one? Or do you just stick with the lipstick, the paint and carpet or the paint and LVP, right? So those are things why you want to have an expert in your corner. And then you want to go straight to Ryan with a 203K loan or something like that and say, hey, this property's iffy if it's going to pass conventional financing, and I need more money to help in the renovation. Ryan, can you help me?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the properties yeah, man, speaking of those fixer uppers, prior to becoming a realtor, I was actually working with some other investors and trying to find some properties for them. And I'll tell you what, though, like, the number one reason why investors become investors and why investors become wealthy is exactly that. They find fixer-upper properties because that's where the money's to be made at. They don't buy these high-class, ready-to-move-in, turnkey-type properties because that's already maxed value. There is no return on that until you sit on it for 10 to 15 years. Then you'll get a return. If you're looking for a quick turn within 1 to 2 years, 6 months, 9 months down the line after you've renovated a fixer-upper to make it livable, then go for it. That's where the money's going to be made at. It's not going to be made on a turnkey property, unfortunately, where that's already the hottest house on the block. You want to get the lowest house on the block and turn it into the highest house on the block. That difference is where not only your equity is at, your renovations. So the way I look at particular properties for me and my clients is when I'm looking for a client that says, hey, Ray, I want you to find me an investment property. I want a property that's livable, but I also want to use it for maybe flipping in 3 to 4 years. Okay, first thing I'm going to look at is what's the equity on this property and what's the return on the updates or renovations that may or may not happen, right? So there's something called an ARV, and an ARV is basically the after repair value. After repair value is basically what is the value of the hottest house on the market with the same bed, same square footage, same year, everything that your house is. And that'll be coming down to why working with a professional is also very important, because we know these type of things to look for when it comes to investments and how to strategize your investment strategies and see what would work for you or not. Working with the right realtor, getting with the right professional that knows the market and has the reach in marketing to not only help you find the house, but also help you resell that house.
We have fix and flip financing too, by the way.
A professional relationship in real estate should be a relationship that lasts a long time. It should not last just for that one transaction. It should be somebody that you can trust, somebody that you can work with, that establishes a foothold within the real estate industry and market to know, is that market good? Is that market good? Do I want to fix up a property here based off of the development within that community? Is that going to cause my house prices to grow? If they were to put out in the middle of this cornfield tomorrow a massive Walmart super shopping center, what do you think that would do for the houses here in the area?
Mm-hmm.
Would that improve jobs? Would that improve amenities within what this community has to offer? Drastically. And that alone is what causes housing to rise. Now, going back to the main question that a lot of buyers are having to deal with right now is, I'll just sit on my approved loan until rates or housing market starts to dump. That's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it won't happen very long. And by that time, the house that you are looking for, that property that's right next to that development, it will be gone because somebody else that didn't wait already got it.
Yep. Well, and let's be real. Once the rates,
I think that's and again, going back to investments on capitalization approaches, right? So we're looking at what the property generates on income and how that's going to give reason to why we list it at 600, 800,000 or whatever, because of what that property generates on income. That is how the investor that has provided years of, or a year or more of living capabilities to a renter to be able to not only monthly generate income to put food on the table for themselves, their families, to make a little bit of money on the side, but also pay for the mortgage for that fourplex, whatever plex that they're paying for. Plus, they have to have what's called, if they don't, they should have what's called landlord insurance. So landlord insurance alone can be in the thousands of dollars. And not only that, you also have, typically your landlord is going to be covering like water, sewer, or sometimes even electricity in certain cases, or providing, if they don't provide, there's certain amenities, there's providing something else, landscape, maintenance, stuff like that. If anything major happens, they're not going to come into you, again, like what Brandon said, you're not going to come to you and go, hey, that $50,000 roof repair, it's going to cost you a little extra this month. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, I wish. Hey, Raymond, can you hear Ryan? Because I can hear him.
Yeah, can you hear me, Ray?
You can.
Yep, he's speaking right now.
No
he was
worries.
talking about access to his fix and flip loans.
All right. Well, I cannot hear Ryan.
If you want, I can mediate here. But like, yeah, because I can hear and see both you guys, so I can say, hold on, Raymond, hold on. Let's Ryan let give him a turn.
That's funny. No, you know what? Actually, we'll just. We've been running on this one for quite a while. But I'll let you guys finish.
Ryan.
Yeah, we're all good.
Okay. Yeah, I think Ryan said he's going to take off here. We're already a little over an hour, but yeah. Well, hey, we'll definitely make sure we leave your information in the link below. And thanks so much, Ryan, for being here with us. Definitely has a lot of amazing loan products, adds a lot of value. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but I could hear him, and we appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
and I look
thank you
forward
so much,
to getting
Ryan.
to know you more
We'll keep
soon.
you in the
too,
loop, and we'll keep all your details down below. And so, Brandon, yes, we are a little bit over an hour, so I want to make sure that we keep our times that we have set up and slotted in for the day. But again, if anybody has any questions, wants to get into Airbnbs or any other investment questions, ask Brandon, or you can also ask me as your licensed realtor here in the state of Oregon with EXP. And of course, we always have our wonderful lender, Ryan Gavin with Kind Lending. Also. So stay tuned for our next